Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Witch History and Makeup with me, Brandy. Um, every week I do 2 videos on witch history, a certain cool witch I find in history. I do some research, and through that research I tell you the story while I'm putting some makeup on my face. So if that sounds awesome to you, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button because I'm trying to grow and I enjoy doing this so much. You know, it's just it's something I'm going to keep doing even if nobody wants to see it. So I'm so glad that you guys are here, and I appreciate you being here. And today is kind of it's based on folk stories, but it's also true. Okay, so we don't have a lot of historical documents about this, but it's an interesting story to say the least. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video because I really enjoyed researching it. It was great. And I just kept coming across more and more and more and more, and I'm just like, oh, this is great. It's not that long of a story, so don't worry. You're not going to be here forever. But yes, this is a good one, so stick around. Let's get this party started. So today's story takes us to Maryland in the very, very late 1600s. It was during a time of religious wars and things like that, where people were turning from Puritan to Protestant, but they were fighting with the Catholics. Okay. Now, of course, the Catholics were having issues with the Puritans because the Puritans believed that Catholics were witches. Like I've said this before, how it goes back and forth. How Protestant can be one, and then the Catholics are brand new. You know, it's been a back and forth game this entire time. But through this religious thing, there was an act put out that said that you cannot persecute somebody just because they're Catholic. And this really upset a lot of Puritans at the time, turning into Protestants or whatnot. And so you had this feud, and now you've got Protestants that have taken over. And if you are Catholic, you're in trouble. Yep. I'm sorry, but we got another one that if you're Catholic, you're in trouble this week. And it makes me sad, but here's what it is. And so they pretty much outlaw Catholic. You have to be a Protestant to live in Maryland, I guess. It's like part of the requirements back then, maybe. I don't know. So in our story, this brings us to the Maryland witch trials, and I'm going to tell you about this first witch before I tell you about today's witch. You feel me? I feel like it's pertinent to the story, just to let you know. For some reason, I'm having a real problem figuring out what to put on my eyes right now. I really do just come in here unplanned. I don't know what makeup I'm going to put on. I just kind of grab some palettes and then there we go. Anyway. So where we are at is on a boat that is sailing to Maryland, I believe. And this boat has got somebody on it that was actually tried for witchcraft and was supposedly a witch. Okay. And there's 3 people who took a disposition. This is the very first documented witch trial craft in America. This lady right here. Okay. And her name was Mary Lee. And she was on a boat with Captain John Bosworth, a man named Henry Corbin, and then Francis Darby. Now, when they were casting off, they heard about this girl in Maryland that had gotten in trouble, and so they're like, "Oh my God, witches are in Maryland!" You know, they're like tripping out. Well, they find out that she's on board the ship. Now, a lot of people are really pissed about this, obviously, because I guess she got away. I didn't get too deep into her because I kind of want to maybe do that in the future. But I'm just telling her story so that you guys know why they think that there's witches in Maryland whenever this ship gets there. Okay. So anyway, they find her on the ship, right? They find her on the ship, and all the sailors and stuff, they're like, we've got to do something about this. We have to, she's a witch. She's got to go, you know? First, they were going to drop her off in the Bermuda Triangle. But the winds wasn't allowing that. The winds was not sailing that way. And so what they ended up doing is basically taking her and looking for the witch mark. There's a little telltale sign, you know, you got a mole on you, then you're a witch, you know. Okay. They took Mary to the captain and was like, look, we found the witch's mark. She's a witch, you know. And then she even admitted to being a witch, which I think she said that because they were probably torturing her. Although, like I say, we don't have much historical documentation about this, unfortunately. And so they show the captain. They're like, hey, Cap, guess what, bro? We found the witch. We found the mark on the witch. And what are we going to do, bro? Like, you know, Captain's the man. He's the man of the ship. He's the guy that tells everybody what to do. And he just turns around. He just, like, doesn't care. And, like, turns around and goes into his little captain's chambers. And he's just like, you know, I'm not participating in this, basically. So what ends up happening is all the sailors, they gather her and they hang her on the boat. Okay. And that's the first actual historical witch killing in America. Just so you know. And that leads into this, because now where we're going is Maryland. And evidently there's a witch there. And so they've got to sniff it out. Now we are in Leonard Town, Maryland, okay? And there is a lady there named MOLL DYER, okay? And MOLL DYER it was said that she would have, okay, let me see if I can say this right. It was said that she was an indentured servant in Barbados, and then when her contract ran up, she rode a boat to Maryland, and that's where she just lived alone, check mark, lived on the edge of town, check mark, was poor, check mark. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now, Moll was a healer, okay? She, of course, since they say that she came from Barbados, then that means that she picked up some witchcraft, you know, some African witchcraft. So maybe some voodoo or something like that. And she would gather herbs, but she was also a beggar. She would beg people, you know, for food because she was poor and stuff. But she would also go and collect all these herbs out in the woods that she would use, what she said, for her incantations or whatnot. And so this kind of, you know, people let it slide for a while, okay? You know, it's just like, oh, it's just a crazy lady outside of town that likes to gather herbs in the forest and all this other kind of stuff, okay? And so she fit all the criteria, but they pretty much left her alone. They're in their war deal. They're like in their religious war. And it doesn't say what she was. I think she was just spiritual. Because like I say, she liked to help heal people, and evidently she was collecting herbs to make tinctures and salves and oils and things of that matter. I mean, that's an herbalist, you know, that's not a witch. Just saying. But anyway, it's not like she was flying around on a broom and all this other stuff like we always be hearing. She had knowledge that had been passed down from her family, from other people's families. It was passed on to her for a reason. So she decided she wanted to practice it. Which is say, that's cool, you know, that's totally cool. But unfortunately, some circumstances happen, and there's always an asshole that's going to point and the finger and say, that's the person that did it. You know, I mean, even though half the time it's something that they could have prepared for and they're just too lazy to do it. And I'll tell you when it is. So supposedly, first off, this one really bad winter comes. It's really, really bad. So bad that it causes an influenza attack. Like everybody's getting sick from influenza. It's bad. It's real bad. People are dying. And I'm sure that our girl, Moll, is over there trying to help, right? Well, fortunately, that's not how people really saw that. So, unfortunately, in 1697, the influenza starts to hit the town. And it is a freezing winter. It's a winter that they've never experienced before, okay? So they're freaking out. and everybody is dying. Everybody is getting sick. People are losing their children, their parents. I mean, it's devastation. And what do? They decide to say that MOLL had created this big storm, right? This big cold front that came in. She was the creator of this thing, and she was the reason why that all these bad things were happening. Why the influenza, like if it hadn't gotten so cold, the influenza wouldn't have came. And so, I mean, they were using her as a scapegoat for everything. I mean, for everything. And it's sad because she was an actual healer, and I bet she was out there trying to heal people. But living on the edge of town, she probably didn't get sick either. And so they probably thought, now I'm telling you, I say this is all, alleged, okay, because we don't, the historical documents burned up in the courthouse in like the 1800s. That's why we don't have many documents about MOLL Dyer. When it hits, there's a man there. It's always a dude. Always a dude anyway. I'm just saying there's always a guy, His name was Cotton Mather, and he was a Puritan clergyman. Okay? Yes, he was. I'm sorry, but Puritan clergyman, that alone scares the crap out of me. I'm just saying. They are, that whole Puritan thing is nuts. So anyway, he wrote The Wonders of the Invisible World not too long before this. So he was already into hunting witches and things like that. He already knew what to look for. Like I say, she lived on the edge of town. She was poor. She was a beggar. She lived alone. She had no kids. She had no husband. There were various accounts of how she looked. Some say she was an old hag. Some say she was absolutely beautiful. But they did say that she was very, very tall. Like taller than most people in that area at the time. But that's probably her indigenous roots. Just saying. Now, old Reverend Cotton, he's a big figure in the town. Okay, he's got a lot of respect from the people, because he's Puritan or Protestant, and he's not Catholic, and so they're totally chill with that or whatnot. So because we really don't have records, this is what I think happened. I think that the preacher man got everybody all riled up, right? Because she did not get a trial. This, unfortunately, is not about a trial today. It's about going straight from accusation to action. Like, it's crazy. And so they blame MOLL, and Cotton is leading the path. You can imagine all these villagers with their torches, dun, 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 you know what I mean? And they're like, we're going to burn the witch. We're going to burn the witch. So they go to her house. They set her house on fire. I'm telling you, they set her house on fire thinking that, she'll die in the fire. I mean, can you imagine it? All the townspeople out there going, yay, we killed the witch. That means the influenza is going to stop and it's going to get warmer, and blah, 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 blah. Well, little did they know, our girl MOLL dips out and runs into the woods. Yep, she ran out there into the woods, but nobody knew that she did. They didn't see her. It's like she just kind of escaped through the smoke and the flames and the chaos and craziness that was going on around her house. Somehow she got out, and she got to the woods. Yep. So everybody goes home, and they're like, okay, that's done. Check that off our list for things to do today. Let's all go to bed now, So, remember, our girl's in the woods, right? What's she doing in the woods? Well, she's freezing. She's freezing to death, okay? Yeah, this is very sad. She's freezing to death out there in the woods. And a guy that's looking for, I guess, some livestock that evidently got out of his fence after a few days found her body on a rock. Now, it's interesting because this rock, the way she was positioned on the rock, is really, she had She was kneeling on the rock with one of her hands on the rock and the other hand stretched out into the sky. I just hit my microphone, so I'm sorry. And she was frozen like that. Her hand on the rock. She's frozen to the rock with one arm frozen up into the air. That's how they found her. They say there were like indentions in the rocks from her knees and her hands, I guess, from where she was trying to hold on or find some way to survive this situation. But unfortunately, she did not. And we don't really know what they did with her body. You know, they'll never say, unfortunately. But we do have a really cool story about a rock. Yeah, because the rock, right? Well, the rock sat there for years. Okay, years. And then in 1968, there was a guy named Philip Love, and he heard the story about MOLL and was like, this is so interesting. I want to find this rock. So he goes and search for the rock. And he goes to a grocer and in the town, and they're like, yeah, the rock is just down there in this ravine. It's like right off the creek that you used to live at, you know? And they're like, okay, cool. And they find the rock. Now, they bring this rock to the old jailhouse. And first they have it kind of out there with just a little plaque that says MOLL Dyers, circa 1697, whenever it was that she passed. Yeah, 1697. Oh, I got the date right. Okay, sorry, I got too excited about that. Anyway, so yeah, I got the date right, and I'm excited. Anyway, so the rock was moved, and it was found and moved by the National Guard, and they moved it to this courthouse on the lawn in a jailhouse that had been there since 1876, and it read MOLL DYER Rock, circa 1697. Now it sat there for 50 years. Yeah, you think that's not that long, you know? Sat there for 50 years in front of this old jailhouse with just her name and all this other stuff on it. Well, recently, as of 2021, like that's recent to me, okay? In 2021, St. Mary's Historical Society actually wanted to preserve the rock because though it was getting weathered, you know, like the prints and stuff weren't really there anymore because it had been out on the weather for like 50 years, you know. First it had been in the forest and the ravine by the creek and everything was cool, but now they have it out in the elements, and all the markings and things that were on the rocks was starting to fade. So then they moved the rock back, like I say. They moved it from out of the elements. They put it into plexiglass. It has like a plexiglass cover over the front. And there's a very nice marker there that's actually talks about MOLL and what happened on that rock and things of that matter. And it's actually pretty awesome. So this poor lady ends up getting killed because they thought she brought a storm. This just goes to show you the fear, what fear actually does to people. It really, it puts a number. It really hurts. You know, really hurts people. So to stereotype somebody, to have something go wrong in your life, okay, and to blame somebody else for it is like the definition of narcissism. I'm sorry, but it is. And I kind of find that throughout this whole series I've been doing. It's a lot of narcissistic things. Like we have old Cotton here, who's like leading the pack of people that, you know, they're gonna roast her or whatnot. You know, what kind of a reverend thinks it's okay to burn down somebody's house just because he thinks they're a witch? Like, make it make sense for me. Like I just don't know, dude. Now they say the stone is haunted. Okay, so when it sat out there for like 50 years or whatnot, people would say that when they touched it, they would feel dizzy or nauseous or sick in some shape, way, or form, you know, and which I think is hilarious. I read a lot of things online about people saying that they went up there and touched it and they didn't feel anything. They said that hunters in the woods up there have seen apparitions because there is a road named after her where supposedly her house was up there in Maryland. It's MOLL DYER Road. And on that road particularly, they have more lightning strikes than anywhere else in Maryland. Yeah, because, they said that she formed the storm, this winter storm that, supposedly all her fault. When we ain't got no control over the weather, okay? I mean, some people might, but they ain't gonna let you know it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, hunters said they saw her on the road. A lot of car accidents. Yeah, a lot of car accidents happened on this road that were like unexplainable. And this road's only 3 miles long. 3.7 miles to be a matter of fact. So you gotta wonder, like, what in the world? How are these kids or these people in these accidents, they're just dying like this, It's so sad. But they say she haunts the area. She haunts the rock that she died on. Even though there's no, like, historical actual evidence that's the rock. I mean, for something to happen in the 1600s, and then you find the evidence of it in 1960-something, 1967. I don't know. That's different. But hey, he said he found the rock. There was a handprint on it, like where she was holding her hand down, and like you could see that there are still little indentions almost where your fingers would be put, like if you were trying to hold on to a rock. But it's like, I want to know what she was reaching out for, y'all. What was she reaching for? That's what I want to know. If she's kneeling with one hand and then she's reaching up, like, what did you see, Ma? I want to know. What did you see? What were you staring at when you froze to death in that position? That's what I want to know. Another cool thing about this is people like to leave like trinkets and things like that. It's kind of like Marie Laveau at her gravesite. Instead of, obviously this isn't her gravesite, but they leave trinkets and offerings and things like that at her rock all the time to kind of ease the ill will of the spirit that resides into the rock. Because, like I say, some people said they felt sick and dizzy and nauseous, but there are some people that are more susceptible to feeling that. And those are people that are like in and halfway off the point. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, so I thought that was the most interesting story about MOLL DYER and how all this came to pass. Just a storm and a sickness. And they pin it on this lady. A reverend takes a mob of people to her house to burn it down with her in it. And then when it's over and done, they're like, yay, the sickness will go away now. Like, but then they find her in the woods like days later, frozen completely, looking up at the sky, reaching for something. Like, I wish we had more information. I want to know what she was looking at. I'm just saying. But anyway, so that's our show for today, you guys. I'm glad that you hung out with me. I know it's a short one. I thought it was really awesome, and I just had to do it. So, if nobody's told you guys today, I love you. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do, because I'm trying to grow, as one does. So, it's love.